It's about that time for me to give you another version of my 2015 NFL mock draft series. This is going to be the October 25th or 26th edition, whatever day that I decide to upload this to the good old YouTube, the post week 7, pre week 8 edition. Now, this mock draft, you can see all the picks in the description box down below, is another 2-round installment. Probably will be one of those things where sometimes, depending on how much time I have, I'll give you 2 rounds. Sometimes I might only give you one. As I watch more players more thoroughly and I feel more confident in my evaluations, I will start to go maybe even deeper and occasionally give you a 3-round mock draft, so on and so forth. Start to give you player rankings and all of that stuff. A lot more NFL draft talk to come in the months ahead. Best believe that. Now, in terms of this particular installment of my mock draft, I did something a little bit differently. I did a mock draft based off of what I think teams should do, what direction they should go, based off of their draft position, their needs, and the players that are available. Okay, so this mock draft is going to look quite a bit different than some of the other ones that I have done previously. Now, I'll start off with the first pick in Oakland, and I know this is a major point of contention between me and many others, but let me put it to you this way. If the Oakland Raiders are bad enough where they finish with the #1 overall pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, and they feel, whether that be Marcus Mariota or Jameis Winston, that one of those two guys is a real deal franchise quarterback, a new regime has to pull the trigger. It is very similar to the situation that faced the 2011 Carolina Panthers, and I don't think they regret taking a Cam Newton. Some of you are going to say Derek Carr this, Derek Carr that. It's not even so much an indictment on Derek Carr. It's just a fact of the matter. If you're a new general manager, are you going to want to tie yourself to the second-round quarterback pick of a previously failed regime? If you're a new head coach, are you going to want to do that? I'm not buying that. And nor do I think that's the right thing to do for your organization. Is Derek Carr really a star? That's the question. Is he a solid quarterback perhaps down the road? Or at least maybe serviceable perhaps? But is he a star? The Oakland Raiders need a star. They need a face of the franchise type player. And the best way to get that is to get it out of the quarterback position. They need a building block on offense. And I just don't believe that if the Raiders end up with the #1 overall pick, you can frankly look at Derek Carr and envision him in that type of light. I'm sorry, I don't. Now, in terms of the Jaguars at #2, I had him taking Todd Gurley from Georgia. You drafted Blake Bortles with a 3rd overall pick. He's your franchise player now. You got to help him. You got to build around him. And the Jaguars have some nice pieces on the outside at wide receiver. Their offensive line is bad, but I don't think there's a tackle at this point, in my honest opinion, that is worth taking with the 2nd overall pick. You got to look at running back here. You got to look at Todd Gurley. Now, a lot of people sit there and say, I wouldn't take a running back that high. A lot of scouts and executives would say taking a running back that high is a waste. Well, they're idiots. If you got a special back, you can't tell me that that guy's not worth a top 10 or a top 5 pick. I propose this to you. If you see a Todd Gurley and you envision him as an AP type of running back on the football field, if you envision him as a Jamal Charles type in terms of, I'm talking about talent level, not necessarily the style of play, if you envision him as a DeMarco Murray type or a Marshawn Lynch type or a you get the fucking point type, would that guy not be worth a top 5 pick to you? I'm sorry. To me, the guy that the Jacksonville Jaguars have to have in their crosshairs is Todd Gurley, period. All this talk of taking a defensive player is fucking stupid. Frankly, at this point in time, like I said, there's no offensive lineman worth taking at that spot, no wide receiver worth taking at that spot. You have to take the best available player at a position of need. There is no better combination of best available player in position of need than Todd Gurley, the running back from Georgia. I have the Jets taking Jameis Winston at #3. As much as I am still a fan of Geno Smith, Rex Ryan's going to be gone at the end of the season, and John Idzik, the general manager, might be as well. This is the same type of thing. If the Jets are picking 3rd, as they would be right now, I believe, if the season ended today, That means Geno Smith didn't work out. A new coach, a new general manager probably are not going to want to tie themselves to the second round pick quarterback of a previously failed regime. And if there is any organization that could sit there and justify gambling on Jameis Winston and his tremendous upside with all the baggage, I think it is the New York Jets. Like it has to be that. I've also got the Houston Texans taking a foray into the quarterback market, going after Connor Cook from Michigan State at number 11. I'm not sure he's that good of a player, but at the same point in time, I just don't see how the Houston Texans organization and front office and coaching staff can look at their players and their fan base and seriously try to sell everyone that they're committed to winning a world championship at some point if they don't address the quarterback position in the first round of the draft sooner rather than later. It's that simple. It is that simple. Now, in terms of other things that you will see I've still got Shawn Oakman going number 4 to Tampa. You see I've got Leonard Floyd going number 5 to Tennessee. I think in terms of outside linebackers, edge rushers, he's the best one in this draft in terms of what I've observed so far. You'll notice that I have Kevin White going 8 to the Minnesota Vikings. I've felt for a few weeks now as I watch more and more and got a chance to study Kevin White more and more that he, to me, is clearly the class of this wide receiver class for 2015, not Amari Cooper. And I'll stand behind that. To me, one of the best players in this entire draft, regardless of position, is Shaq Thompson, the outside linebacker from Washington. I look at Shaq Thompson, and I see a guy that could be an all-pro strong safety in the National Football League. I see a guy that could be at least a Pro Bowl, if not all-pro weak side linebacker in a 4-3 in the National Football League. I've got him going to Chicago at number 13, but I think there's a very strong chance that he will not make it out of the top 10 come draft time next April. And I truly believe that. He's just too fast, too explosive, does too many good things. I think he's one of the 5 or 7 best players in the entire country, regardless of position. I think he's a guy that his draft stock is going to shoot up because some teams will even sit there and look at him as a better version of a Ryan Shazier and think he could play inside in a 3-4. Maybe a team like a Washington or New Orleans thinks that. A guy like Lovey would love a guy like a Shaq Thompson to play the middle or play weak side where he could maybe move Levante David into the middle. Could you imagine a linebacking core in Tampa that featured both Levante David and Shaq Thompson? I don't think anybody wants to envision that. I've got Danny Shelton of this Washington Huskies, going to Seattle at number 17. I think this is a guy who some people will sit there and say that he profiles best as a nose tackle in a 3-4. I think he's such a good athlete and so explosive that he could play so many different positions. You can't just totally dismiss the pass rush numbers that he has this year at Washington. That's a defense loaded with talent, first and second round talent. You've got Marcus Peters as well, and Kikaha as well, if he passes his medicals with the previous torn ACLs. But Danny Shelton, man, this guy's a beast. This guy's a stud. He might be as good of a defensive tackle as there is in this class. You'll notice I've got Leonard Williams dropping a little bit. Like I said, I think he's just a tad bit overrated perhaps at this point in time. But this is also a situation of where other teams go in other directions, and perhaps the Giants get a good value at number 12. You'll notice that I have 2 other running backs going in round number 1. This is a really good running back class in particular at the top this year, and I think these NFL teams that have devalued the running back position in recent years need to realize how stupid they are and understand that if you can get a big-time impact player at running back, that's exactly what you have to do. What are you going to do? Take a defensive end that takes 2 or 3 years to develop, or draft a running back with huge upside that can contribute right away. I've got Miami taking Melvin Gordon at number 15, and I've got the Patriots taking Amir Abdullah at number 27. And I've got several other running backs going in round number 2. This is a really, really good class of running backs, like I said, especially at the top. I don't envision Todd Gurley being a top 5 pick. I'd be surprised, frankly, at this point if he is a top 10 pick, because NFL scouts and executives, if one of those teams in the top 5 or 10 actually took Todd Gurley, it would almost be an admission of just how idiotic and wrong their philosophy has been about the running back position in recent years, and they don't want to admit that they're wrong. And that's the way it is. So again, you've got my 2-round mock draft down below in the description box. Let me know what you think. Let me know who you think are some of the best players in this 2015 NFL draft class upcoming. Who are some of the more underrated prospects that you think are going to shoot up the board as time goes along, and who perhaps are going to be some of the more overrated prospects that are going to drop as time goes along. Let me know in the comments section.